Hello, good morning. Dr. Santosh, are you here?
Yes.
Yes. Shall we start right now?
Yeah, go on, please.
Yeah, thank you. Madam.
Hello. A very good morning to all of you. This is the third day of our faculty development program, and we have a special guest today with us. So allow me, Abhishekta Bandhopadhyay, Assistant Professor of English Department, JBIT, to welcome our special guest, Dr. Santosh Mahapatra. Please, a very warm welcome to you, sir. So, Santosh sir, I am not only me, but we all are privileged to have you today with us. So, Dr. Mahapatra will be speaking today on developing assessments based on syllabus, textbook, and the classroom teaching. So, before he starts his session, I want to take the privilege to introduce him to the participants. So, ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming Dr. Santosh Mahapatra, Associate Professor in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at BITS Pilani, Hyderabad campus. Dr. Mahapatra holds a PhD in English language teaching from the University of Hyderabad and has taught at various institutions, including the University of Hyderabad and India. His research interests include digital technology, teacher development, and educational language policy. He is a skilled researcher, comfortable with qualitative, quantitative, and mixed method studies. Dr. Mahapatra is also a dedicated teacher and has taught MCA and integrated master students as well. He has published in various journals and he is a member of several editorial boards. His institutional responsibilities include being the warden of Balmiki Bhavan and a member of the vendor management committee. Dr. Mahapatra is also a convener of the departmental research committee and has been a faculty in charge of several student clubs. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Santosh Mahapatra. Very warm welcome to you, sir. And now the stage and mic is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Abhishekta. Hello, everyone. I'm happy to have all of you here. I'll share my screen and I'll start my presentation after that. Is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible? My voice is clear and all?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so hello everyone, and I think all of you are English teachers, right? Anybody who is not an English teacher here? Okay, I'm just assuming that everybody is an English teacher here, and I'll keep that in mind when presenting, what I'm going to talk about. Whatever. So, this is my plan for today. So first, we'll talk about how we move from syllabus to the textbook and its use in the classroom. Then we'll talk about how planning happens in case of assessment. And then we'll also talk about how we can consider or how we can utilize the basic principles of assessment. And then we'll talk about developing learner or learning-centric assessments. Maybe there are a few terms here which may not be very, I don't know how many of you understand all of these, but yeah, if you have an understanding, it'll be much easier. So I'll take around how much time? I'll take till probably 45 minutes to 50 minutes to complete this, and then we will have an kind of brief interaction before we close. And if you have any questions, you can stop me when I'm presenting. You can stop me and ask me. And I would request the moderators to let me know if there are questions mentioned in the chat box. If you have a question, please put it in the chat box. And one moderator, I request moderators to let me know if there is a question. I would like to address the questions immediately then and then. And also, you can keep your questions and then ask me at the end. And let's try to keep this as interactive as possible, which means I would like you to respond to a lot of questions. I may have a lot of questions. I would like you to respond to those questions. And write in the chat box or unmute yourself and speak. I think you are allowed to do that. So generally, what we see in a typical academic system is that, or the kind of institutions we are teaching, we have a syllabus which is prescribed, and then there is a textbook given to you in most cases, and then you go to the classroom and teach the textbook or other materials along with the textbook. Okay, now try to think about these questions, and if you are answering these, try to keep your responses very short, like 10 to 20 seconds. Should not take too much time so that everybody gets a kind of chance to respond to these questions in their, thinking about their own context. Okay, so here, these are slightly just straightforward questions, in fact, not really difficult or anything, but we don't have to be politically correct while answering these questions. Do you think the syllabus designers that, wherever you are teaching, I'm talking about those syllabus designers who have designed the syllabus for you, for your college, are they trained in language syllabus design? You can respond in the chat box or you can unmute and respond. I'll wait for you for another 10 seconds to check what you are writing in the chat box. Not always, Kirtana says. Anybody else? Not always. Okay. Just two? Not at all. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir, but not all times. Okay. If you want to respond using your voice, you can unmute yourself and respond also. That's all right. May not be. Fine. Okay, so generally we see that sometimes they have some training, but most of the time they don't have much training in syllabus design. Okay, this is one question. Let's go to the next question. Once again, do you think they're actively engaged in research on language pedagogy? I'm talking about research, means they're researching and publishing on language pedagogy actively, regularly, reading new research and talking about new things and publishing those things in journals? No. No. Come on, a few more. I need at least, let's say we have 36 people, at least 20 responses quickly. Voice responses or in the chat box, whichever way you prefer. And if you want to add anything, you can go on and add. Not much. No. Maybe. Surekha says maybe. Some staff members, they do that, but not more, not many. Okay. So we have a few responses, and we see that not many are, engaged in research on language pedagogy. What about textbook designers? Do you think they teach and research students for whom they design textbooks? Can you respond to this? Do you think textbook designers, they teach the students for whom they design textbooks or write textbooks, and they research those students? Explore how they learn, where they stand, what they do, the background. Do they research also on textbook designing and the background, the language needs, all that? Do they do that? Sometimes. Okay, instructional design is corporate, not always. Okay, go on. Maybe they have basic knowledge to some extent. Yes, they do. Okay, not always. Okay, so we have some response right now. Sometimes they do, but not really always. So we are talking about syllabus designers. We are talking about textbook writers to start with. Okay, and do you think these syllabus designers and textbook designers, do they discuss the textbook writing or syllabus design with you? Do they discuss with you? I mean, you are teachers, right? You teach in a classroom. So ideally, if somebody has to write a textbook or design and syllabus, ideally they should talk to you. Do they talk to you? Right? Because you know more about the classroom than probably uh, you know uh, what they know. Do they do that? If they are writing a textbook for your students, ideally they should talk to you. And yeah, in 20 years, I've never come across such forums. Bala, you are right. I have also never come across that kind of thing. Yeah. Okay, so textbook designers and syllabus designers, they hardly talk to teachers for whom or students for whom they design textbooks or design syllabuses, right? So you see that syllabus designers, often kind of, they're not in touch with teachers most of the time. I mean, this happens in India a lot. Not many of them are in touch with teachers. And then they don't talk to, the textbook designers don't talk to teachers before they publish textbooks. Do they come to you and ask you to try out their textbooks? Have you come across that? Before they publish, they give you some materials, ask you to try out in your classroom. Does that happen? Has somebody given you something like that? Like, take these tasks I'm including in my textbook, try out in your classroom, and can you let me know what is working and what is not working? Does that happen? No, never happened. Oh. Anybody else where textbook designers give you a portion of the textbook or one chapter and ask you to try out in your classroom and let them know how it's working, where it's not working, what is good about it, what is not so good about it? Did they ask for any feedback from you? Have you given feedback to a textbook writer or a syllabus designer till now? Anybody who has done that? No feedback to textbook designers or syllabus designers? None of you? Oh, that's so sad. Ideally, they should do that because they're writing for your students. Yes, absolutely. It would be wonderful if they took feedback from you, but you have not done that. Okay, Vamsi, I got that. That's really sad. We can't do much about it, but yeah, we can do a lot about it, but yeah, it's sad. Let's talk about the next thing. Do you discuss now? It's on you. Do you discuss? Sorry. Do you discuss the syllabus, the textbook, and the classroom teaching with your students? Do you get feedback on these things? What about you? Do you do that? Do you get feedback on the syllabus, the textbook, and the teaching? Do you ask them what's working and what's not working? Do they have a space? Okay. But there isn't much that we can change. Yeah, Kirtana, that's the sad part of it. Yes. Officially, you don't do that. Okay. Okay, so we, as teachers, we try getting some feedback from our students regarding the syllabus, the textbook. Sometimes they don't like, sometimes they like. Sometimes we don't like to go to students to ask them whether you are teaching well or not and give you anonymous feedback, where you get to know whether you are teaching well, whether they learn the kind of skills or component, language skills or component they're supposed to learn, or you're teaching something that's not really relevant. If you get that kind of feedback, then you are lucky, because you're getting, you're getting something that will be useful for you, that will help you grow as a teacher. But it doesn't happen very regularly, yes. Yeah, but officially, what do you do with that kind of information is the next question. Okay, now we talked about how you see from your answers, if you have to draw one conclusion out of these responses, out of your own responses to these questions, what kind of conclusion would you draw? Can you write in one line or tell me, unmuting yourself, or write it in the chat box, whichever you prefer? What kind of conclusion would you draw from all the responses that we got here? What would be your conclusion? If you have to draw one conclusion here, what would be that conclusion?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, go on.
I'm Hima Bala from Narayanamma Institute of Technologies and Sciences.
Okay.
So, from all the questions and the responses, I guess, I can say that there's a huge gap between the teaching fraternity and the people who make the material for us. It's very obvious that all of us know that there exists this gap, and then we are helpless in certain places.
Absolutely. So there is a gap among syllabus designers, textbook writers, and what happens in the classroom. So yeah, there is a gap. Manisha says that we need training and more involvement on part of the students as well as teachers and other stakeholders. You need more participation. Manisha is saying we need more participation. Yes. Anybody else would like to draw any conclusion here? Anybody else?
Sir, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Sir, absolutely. I want to discuss about the syllabus, the text book, and the classroom teaching with the students designing.
Okay.
Actually, absolutely collaborating with the students in the design process of syllabi or either textbook and the classroom teaching strategies, essentially for creating the effective learning environment.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, so therefore we want to follow some engaging students in syllabus design, because some of the we want to use some gather inputs and clarify goals, and we want to make it incorporate to flexibility and solicit feedback. For example, collaborating on textbook content, whenever we do, then we want to solicit feedback and incorporate real world examples.
Absolutely, yes, you are right.
Like creative supplementary materials.
Absolutely,
So,
yes.
and then another thing, we want to enhancing classroom teaching strategies, means we want to do active learning techniques, involve students in discussion about the teaching methods.
Right.
They find most effective group works, discussion, hands-on activities. Similarly, we want to take some feedback loops, regularly solicit feedback on teaching methods and classroom dynamics to adjust strategies as needed. Similarly, peer teaching opportunities. For example, we always encourage students to lead discussion or reach specific topic, fostering a sense of ownership over the learning.
Absolutely. So these are wonderful ideas, and
we are by actively involving students in the design of syllabi textbook and classroom teaching education. They are the creating, sir.
absolutely, yes. Thank you. So I think these are very important points raised by Ishwar Rao. I think if we involve students and teachers in the process of syllabus designing, in the process of textbook writing, then probably we'll have more effective, more impactful syllabuses and more impactful textbooks. Probably we will design better textbooks if we involve teachers and students in the process. So thank you for that. So we will move on and go to the next section and see what we have. So in an ideal world, like we have talked about, ideally what should happen, because that's something that I was trying to draw your attention to. Generally, we start with students and talk to them, in kind of in an open manner where there is hardly any pressure on them, and that should lead to a discussion. And this discussion should be led by, let's say, teachers, textbook writers, syllabus designers, and they work together with students to get some idea about the language needs of students. Once they identify the language needs, the next step is to think about how to design a syllabus that addresses these needs, that caters to students' language needs. And once you do that, the next stage is to think about how you can, to develop materials first. But before you publish as textbook or something, you need to pilot them. And for piloting, you need to talk to teachers, ask them to take those materials to the classroom, try out in the classroom, give you some feedback, and then you modify and then finalize the textbook content. That's ideally that should happen. If that happens, then the textbook comes out really good, very effective, and most teachers feel that they own the textbook, they're part of the textbook process, and that ownership leads to better learning. Ishwar Rao was mentioning earlier that ownership of learning. It's true for students, it's also true for teachers. If you think that I am part of the process, syllabus designing process, textbook designing process, probably you will use the syllabus and the textbook much better in a more effective manner. And the next one is you finalize the textbook, and that's being used, and then you keep revising it because things are changing really fast. We are in a digital world, things are changing. People are exposed to digital media, and language is evolving very fast. So you need to revise textbooks. Something that was designed, let's say 10 years ago, may not always be applicable in a classroom, in today's classroom. Probably you need to change things. So these days, because we have access to digital media, probably it will be a good idea to maintain soft copy of materials that we are designing. Probably the material should be college centric, probably university centric. College centric in the sense you have certain group kind of students that may not be there in another institute. So probably you can use teachers come together and design a textbook. Now you have publishing opportunities. Self-publishing is also available as an option. So you teachers can come together, carry out a needs analysis, identify the language needs of students, and then work with somebody who has some experience with textbook designing, syllabus designing, somebody who is trained, so somebody who is actively doing some research. Teachers in an institute can come together and develop a textbook. I think that's the best kind of textbook that's possible, because somebody from outside may not know the kind of students you have, their socio-cultural backgrounds, their caste, religion, sensitivities, language needs, all those things you know better than others probably. So maybe you are in a very good position. And if you work with an expert and then design a textbook, I think that kind of textbook is an ideal textbook for your classrooms. Think about this thing. When you go back and see if there is an opportunity to do so, please go ahead and do that. Now I checked the AICTE website for BTech syllabus, and I found this. How many of you are familiar with this? In the chat box, can you indicate? The AICTE syllabus. No? Okay. So here, okay, one person said, fine, no issues. Let's see, the student will acquire basic proficiency in English, including reading and listening comprehension. writing and speaking skills, proficiency in reading, listening comprehension, writing and speaking. So these are the 4 things they want to develop. And what they do here, you look at the syllabus, whether do you think the syllabus content like vocabulary building, basic writing skills, identifying common errors, nature and style of sensible writing, writing practices, oral communication, does the syllabus truly reflect the syllabus objectives? Does it accurately reflect the syllabus objectives? Can you check for a minute and let me know? Look at the objective, syllabus objective, and look at the syllabus content. Okay, let's ask Himawala. Why do you think so, Himawala, that it doesn't reflect? What are the things you saw here?
The objective is talking about all the 4 skills, LSRW. Whereas when I see the syllabus, it's basically concentrating more on speaking and writing, where I don't see anything which is closer to reading or listening. So I don't think there are
Okay.
writing practices. Oral communication, like in oral communication, what are they doing? Like, are they going to record and play, or making them listen to it? What is it that they're going to do? Where is the listening part, or where is the writing part? The writing practices means what? What does it mean? Where are we heading to? It's quite generic. So I don't think
Okay, got the point. Anybody else? Kirtana? Bala Kumari, can you turn off your Bala Kumari? Can you turn off your mic? Yeah, Kirtana, can you tell us why you think? Okay, your syllabus. You were talking about your syllabus. Okay. So here, I think anybody else would like to comment on this? No?
No, sir.
Okay. So here there is you have reading comprehension, but there is nothing on reading as such. And you have things like vocabulary building, common errors has to do with grammar mostly, and sometimes vocabulary. So you don't have anything explicitly mentioned related to listening, but under oral communication, you have some listening and some speaking available. Yeah, certain aspects are kind of focused, like writing is all over the place here. Everywhere there is writing, focus on mostly writing, but not really on other skills as such. Though they talk about in the syllabus objectives, they mention all 4 major language skills. Then you go to the suggested readings. Do you see a kind of, do you see the kind of readings or the books that are prescribed here? Do they also go with the kind of syllabus objectives and the syllabus they have prescribed, or do you think there is a gap here? What they have prescribed for prescribed textbooks, they don't match the objectives and the skills that are mentioned here. Anybody who would like to talk about it? Anyone? No. See, the first one is practical English usage. It's more of a reference book. It's not really a book of grammar tasks or anything. It's a reference book and generally used by teachers and learners to identify if there is a problem. It has explanations related to grammatical, structures. Remedial English grammar, more of it's kind of exercises that are kind of slightly older. FT old, Macmillan 2007, quite old for now. And it's kind of remedial grammar where you do a lot of grammar exercises. On writing well, it's again for teachers where there's sample and there are more of instruction, not really students because you don't have tasks there. Hampleon is one of the authorities on writing. Study writing is a very good textbook, excellent textbook for writing. So it's there, but the kind of writing they are doing, I'm not very sure if all that is there in Hampleon's. Communication skills, the book by Sanjay Kumar and Pushpalata, that book has more on communication skills in general. They don't have a kind of, it's not like a workbook where students work on it and learn language skills as such. Most of the communication skills.
Sorry, also it is quite limited in the scope for the students.
Yeah, and I'm saying that here in most communication skills textbooks have focus on a kind of, they talk about what communication is, this and that. There are very few things that students can do
Practice.
with the textbook. Yes,
Yes.
practice is not really there. And the communication, that whole thing is slightly problematic for me because I don't see much focus on language. There is hardly any focus on language. And when they talk about it, they talk only in terms of what people should do and should not do. When they talk about paragraph writing, they talk about what is a good paragraph, what it is, and all that, which is useless for classroom teaching as such, because how do you teach that is not mentioned anywhere. So communication skills, not really a good idea. And people don't know good textbooks. That's why they take communication skills textbooks and use. And exercises in spoken English, that's a very good book once again. But again, why could be, do we need that kind of book right now? I'm not very sure if we do. I mean, if we need spoken English things, probably we have a lot of media, a lot of things people already use. We can use multimedia and resources, your lab things, and a lot of things are available. But yeah, there is no harm in having a textbook, but I'm not very sure if we need a textbook for teaching, listening, and speaking as such. So if you look at it more, what I'm seeing is there is a gap here. Okay. And there are two comments here. Designing syllabus for English is not an easy task because India is not multicultural. Language, religion, designers should keep in mind. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Whoever you are, Dell, I'm saying that the thing is that to decentralize, not to have a central level syllabus, because the kind of language skills people need in Hyderabad, same kind of skills they may not need in, for example, let's say Adilabad, or maybe Sholapur or Kolhapur, maybe in maybe Trivandrum. So in different parts of the country, language needs are very different. So it's not a good idea to come up with a centralized syllabus. It's good to decentralize because we are a vast country. We have multiple languages, multiple cultures, religions, class, caste, several things are there. So why not respect those and then develop language skills and develop textbooks or develop materials that cater to the needs of very specific groups of students. So here you see a clear gap between, syllabus objectives and what is mentioned in the syllabus, and then between the syllabus and the textbooks that are prescribed. There is nothing on reading and very little on listening and all that. And yeah, mostly on writing and the kind of writing that you do, if it's same or very different. So those are some of the concerns generally when we prescribe textbooks. We'll go to one more example and check if this is the same in case of JNTU, which is very close to us. These are the course outcomes, where you have use of English effectively in spoken and written forms, comprehend the given text, respond appropriately, and communicate confidently in different, and then acquire basic proficiency in English, including reading and listening, writing and speaking skills. Okay, so these are mentioned there. And the textbook is a very good textbook. I like that textbook. It's good for B2 level learners, B1, B2. I'm talking about people who are not really good at using English, but they manage somehow. They manage. Those kind of students will find the textbook really interesting, and a lot of tasks are there. So this is kind of a lot of tasks and activities in the book. This is a good one. I'm happy with the book choice of the textbook. This is a good one. But what is happening is in the syllabus, there is hardly, this is the course outcome. I looked at the syllabus, but I didn't find anything on listening and speaking. Whereas the outcomes mention listening and speaking. That's a problem again. You mention listening and speaking, but there is nothing in the syllabus. And assessment, of course, I don't think there will be much in the assessment. Now I'll show you, a copy of the question paper so that you can form an opinion. And let me know what you think about the question paper, whether the question paper truly reflects the kind of, syllabus we have. So keep a screenshot of the syllabus for yourself, and I'll present to you the question paper. And then you let me know whether the question paper represents the syllabus or truly reflects the syllabus.
Sir, recently we have made a 2 years Master of Arts English program shall comprise 4 semester. We have made this syllabus, sir.
For JN2 syllabus you are talking about?
I am talking Berhampur University.
Oh, you are talking about Baharampur University. No,
Yeah.
okay, fine. So I'm talking here about mostly about JNTU syllabus, which is here in Hyderabad. There is this university where we
Yes, sir.
follow this syllabus, and I'm talking about that syllabus. And let's look at it and see if the portions you saw earlier. Just give me a second. I don't know why it's not moving, but anyway, I'll share that with you. Yeah, now look at the syllabus, JNTU syllabus. Okay. Sorry, JNTU question paper.
Okay, sir. Very visible, sir.
Okay. Now you have a lot of grammar exercises, and then write an opinion on accommodation of Indian words into English. Do you think it's a welcome sign? Or what is the importance of something? So you have a lot of questions which are not really related to the syllabus we have right now. I'll just check if you have a full question paper. Yeah, here I got the question paper. I'll share with you. Yeah. So you can see that we have difference between redundancies and cliches. And in writing, what is the importance of creating coherence when writing a paragraph? This is a kind of meta writing question. If you have to test coherence, how would you test coherence? You will ask them to write a paragraph and then focus more and assign more marks to coherence. You would not talk about what is coherence, and that means you don't know how to design a proper question paper. The importance of humor, taking Toasted English by R.K. Narayan as a sample text. This is really problematic because this is based on known texts, and which maybe requires a lot of remembering or memorizing. Cloud computing. If everybody is familiar with cloud computing as a topic, then it's all right. Otherwise, and then that question on why Sudhamurthy's letter getting recognition for J.R.D. Tata, again based on what you have already studied. So there's a mixture of what you have studied and what you have not done, but a lot of questions are not really, could be more interesting, could be less monotonous. Here, no, I don't know. I'm not very sure if I would ask something like this. Write an essay on topic, different types of writing. Again, a meta topic. So yeah, stock market trends in India essay. I don't know whether I can write anything on a paragraph or an essay on stock market trends in India. It's very difficult for me. You need very specific knowledge about stock markets. Then only you will be able to write. So such thing, we'll discuss those things in some more detail soon. Where is my presentation now? Okay. Now I have again, I'm sharing my screen with you. If you can see the screen. Okay. Now the next question is, ideally what should happen is when you have the syllabus objectives or outcomes, you know them. And then you think about the tasks and activities in the textbook. And then you think about what kind of assessment I should design so that it reflects the skills, sub-skills in the syllabus and the task types, the textbook. Okay, I'll ask for some examples soon. Okay, can you tell me if you have to plan the assessment, how would you plan it? Anyone? You have to answer this orally because writing will take a lot of time. Anybody would like to respond to this? Come on, anyone?
Sir, good morning. This is Sandhya Devi from SRM IST.
Okay.
Sir, how can we assess speaking skills, sir, when it comes for assessment?
Okay, I'll answer you in another 2 minutes time, how to assess that. But can you tell me how you assess in general, whatever you are assessing in your college or university, how do you do that? How do you plan?
We go for, and I was working for Sri Venkateshwara College of Engineering 2 years. Just now I moved to this institution from 1 month back.
Okay.
Before I was assessing them by giving them a group discussion for 20 minutes. It can be done only as an internal part. We couldn't do as like summative examination. We haven't done it.
Okay, anybody else? Can you talk about your planning, how you plan for an assessment? Anyone?
Sir.
Yeah, go on, please.
Here actually we want to first of all make it determine the purpose.
Okay.
What are you trying to assess? Knowledge, skill, attitude, or combination?
Okay.
Similarly, choose type of assessment. For example, what is the formative assessment? Provide feedback during the instruction.
Okay.
Similarly, summative assessment evaluate to learning at the end of a unity or course.
Okay.
And performance-based assessment requires students to apply knowledge and skills.
Okay.
And selected response assessment like multiple choice test recall.
Right.
And another thing, that develop the assessment items. So we can do the first thing, write clear, unambiguous questions or prompts,
Right.
and use appropriate language for your students' level.
Okay.
Similarly, include a range of difficulty levels.
Okay.
And so you first make it the determine scoring criteria. For example, decide if it will be objectively or subjectively scored.
Right.
Similarly, develop a scoring and rubric of for open-ended items.
Right.
Similarly, before we want to make a plan assessment, then plan for administration. That's means
Absolutely.
that means decide on the format, online paper, online or paper or pencil or oral, etc.
Perfect. Yes.
And determine the length and the time limits.
Good.
And arrange for accommodation if needed.
Absolutely. Yes.
Sir, similarly, at last, we want to analyze and use the results. For example, score the assessment and analyze the data, and identify areas of strength and weakness. And all
Absolutely.
things are happening, then reflect on the assessment process and make improvement for next time. So these are the ailing the assessment, our learning goals using a variety of assessment types, sir.
Very good. Yes, sir. Very good. Excellent, execution of what we talk about. Good assessment. Very good practice. Excellent. So what he was pointing out at was you identify the skills and sub-skills in the form of purpose. So I'm talking about here in terms of skills, of sub-skills, what you have taught in the classroom, how you have taught, using what kind of tasks. And if you identify these two things, these are the skills and components. Skills is LSRW. Under skills, there'll be each one has sub-skills. For example, in reading, you can have skimming, scanning, summarizing. There are a lot of sub-skills. Same thing with components. I mean, you have also components like grammar and vocabulary. And under that, what sub-components you have, like passive voice, active voice, or vocabulary, I mean, with what kind of vocabulary you are talking about. So you identify all those and then identify the kind of tasks and activities you used in the classroom. They should be similar to those that were used in the classroom. And the next stage is you adhere to the basic principles of assessment, which we will discuss in our next slide. Here is one example I'm giving you. Okay, so let's say I taught reading. And in reading, I taught skimming and scanning. Skimming has to do with identifying the overall, meaning or what is there in the text, the gist. Scanning has to do with identifying very specific information from a piece of text. And then you think about whether you use general or scientific text and the length of the text, let's say 200 to 300 words, and where from you got, let's say, popular science text articles you got. And are they contemporary or not? They are contemporary. And then you think about the MCQs. Ujjaini Sinha Roy is asking me to go to the previous slide. Okay, I'll go to the previous slide. What's the question, Ujjaini? Can you speak, unmute and speak?
Yes, sir. Sir, I understood what you said. I just wanted to just check one thing again. So it's clear, sir. Thank you.
Okay. And then I'm checking whether in the class, what kind of tasks and activities I used. I used, let's say, MCQs, multiple choice questions. Then blank filling activities, I used a few. And then I used information transfer activities. And so I have these three types of things I used in the classroom for teaching. So in the exam, I will also use similar kind of tasks or activities, okay, or in the assessment. So this is something that that Iswar Rao was talking about earlier, that what you teach, they should be reflected in your assessment. So I'm talking about same thing. Very similar kind of task should be there. You should not surprise them. That'll be a nasty surprise if you do that, because if you use blank filling activities, suddenly you have something else to do in the final exam, and then they're in trouble. So make sure that they're similar. So can you give me an example like this from your context where you taught and you identified such skills and sub skills and the context, and everything, and then it was the same or something very similar in your assessment? Anybody else other than people who have already spoken? I would like to hear from people who have not spoken. Can you? One example, something very similar. Can you give me an example?
Sir, actually, my area of research is on reading. Sir,
Okay.
can you hear me?
Yeah, okay.
It's designing a reading course for engineering communication.
Okay.
I did all the skimming, scanning, then intensive reading and extensive reading using the popular science articles like Nat Geo.
Okay.
I tried with Nat Geo and Spectrum articles. Hello, sir.
Yeah, go on. I
Yeah.
can hear you.
I created questions based on MCQ. I myself created. I just use the sample available, just paragraph of just it was a 5 minutes read. Using that paragraph, I created questions for them based on MCQs, closed test. Then 2-mark question was also given. True or false also is given.
Okay, and similar questions you practiced in the classroom, right? With
Yes,
similar
sir,
kind
yes.
of texts also you practiced in the
Yes,
classroom.
yes, exactly. Finally, first I introduced them a test on IELTS. It was a pre-test. Then in between, this had been an intervention for me. After that, I conducted post-test based on IELTS.
But don't you think then there is a problem? Because IELTS,
Considerable, yes, sir.
the problem here is IELTS assesses your academic writing skills, right? And it has very specific task types.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Are they
But
the
I did
same? Did you
no,
use similar kind of tasks in your teaching?
no, that there was considerable improvement. I cannot say that all things had been reflected. Anyhow, this is a best. That was a best chance for me to introduce them popular articles to them.
Okay, but as a research design, probably you need to rethink because I'm not very sure if this is a good research design, because if you teach something, that should be assessed. And if you're assessing in IELTS, IELTS is a general proficiency test, academic proficiency test
Actually,
if you
that I
use.
have not included that posters and pretest even in my research, sir. The purpose is not to help them to just to introduce them to get familiarized with the reading text.
Okay.
The specific text. I can take them to general to specific text, engineering communication.
So right now I will give you an example of somebody was asking, who was asking me about speaking. Somebody asked me about speaking. Who was that?
It's me, sir, Sandhya Devi.
Okay, in speaking, let's say I have to do the same thing. So let's say I'm teaching how to participate in a classroom conversation, academic conversation in a classroom. And that involves things like soft skills like asking questions and let's say responding to questions and let's say uh, listening to a short question and understanding and responding immediately after that, and organizing my ideas or information and presenting in a coherent manner. So these are something I keep in mind, and I did that in a classroom in a very authentic setting. In the sense, I asked questions related to their academic topics. For example, if I am teaching computer science students, I ask them, "Can you tell me what cloud computing is?" Then somebody described, and I make sure that the way they define it, I'm following a set of principles, how to define something, and then how to give examples. So defining, exemplifying, and all those, I make sure I teach them properly. And when I assess, so I assess them in similar way. I give them questions on a Google form, and I ask them to ask them to respond, record that, and upload to Google form. And then I look at their responses. So it's something that I taught in the classroom that gets reflected, and these questions are very short. Answers are generally 20 seconds to 1 minute max. And these are a kind of immediately responding to the question. So I don't give much time to complete the assessment. It should be immediate. So something I kept in mind. And these are asked by generally by teacher and responded to by the student, so I could maintain the same kind of scenario. And these are authentic questions related to their context and the kind of language use they do in computer science classrooms. So I kind of replicated similar setting in my assessment. That's how you can do that. And if you teach something like presentation skills, what is it that you teach, and whether you allow them to make presentations in the classroom when you teach, and in the process you help them reflect on their presentations, improve the presentation skills, do in group, do it individually, and then you assess their presentation skills, decide the the assessment criteria. For example, saying the first thing is content, second is organization, then the slides, the formatting of the slides or the slides, and let's say you can say body language would be one more component. So you devise the assessment criteria, discuss the assessment criteria in advance with your students, and then do the assessment. That will be appropriate. We'll move on. We'll go to the next one, where we are talking about the principles of assessment I mentioned. Anybody who can mention the basic principles of assessment in the slides, in the chat box, sorry. What are the basic principles of assessment? Can you mention one by one in the chat box? One is validity. Can you mention more? So one is validity, one is reliability. Okay. What else is there? Reliability. What else? Authenticity. What else? Practicality. What else? Washback. What else? Fairness and ethics. Yay. So we have validity, we have reliability, we have authenticity, we have practicality, or you can call it feasibility in that way, and then fairness and ethics, and you have washback. Let's talk about each one. Anybody who can define validity? You can do it orally, quickly. What is validity? And can you give me an example from your context? No? Very simple. Validity has to do with when you assess what you're supposed to assess. For example, if you teach them how to participate in a classroom conversation, the assessment should also be a conversation, participating in a conversation. You cannot say that write the dialogue between reflecting a conversation between two people. That's not a good, and that's not a valid assessment of somebody's conversation skills. So you should be careful with that. That's not a good assessment. For example, you teach them how to write paragraphs, and they wrote paragraphs on different topics. You taught them how to write a topic sentence, how to write a concluding sentence, how to add the supporting details. In the exam, you ask them what are the features of a good paragraph, and that's problematic because you are asking a meta question. So you ask, or you teach them reading, and in the exam you ask them to summarize reading and find meanings from skimming and scanning. In the exam you ask them to summarize in 100 words, summarize this essay in 100 words. That's not a reading assessment, that's a writing assessment almost. There is reading, but it's a kind of both skills are put together. You should be careful. If you are reading, you are assessing their reading, it should be reading. If you're saying that you are assessing both reading and writing, then yes, summarizing is a good thing, but not always. So think about this carefully. Then there is reliability, which has to do with consistency in scoring. In our context, it can be test, retest, reliability, other kinds of things are there which may not be applicable in our context. What here we are talking about is consistency. For example, if somebody has submitted an essay, you give this 5 out of 10. And somebody else should also give 5 or 4.5 or 5.5, around that range for the same kind of essay. It should not be somebody gives 5 and another gives 8.5. Then there is a problem with reliability. How do we address the concern of reliability? Anybody? What do we do to maintain reliability across scorers? Anybody? Anyone?
So, if the question is reliable,
Hmm.
then around 80% or around 80% of the students must be able to attend that question. If they are not able to attend that question, then we cannot, that question paper question lacks reliability. Is it not so?
See, reliability has to do with mostly, or that's not really reliability as such. That may have to do with validity, because you are asking something that most people don't know. So reliability has to do with the scores or the performance, the reliability of performance. For example, if they perform a test and they are showing certain kind of ability, little later on similar kind of test, they should show similar kind of ability. That should not change. So good test generally maintains that thing. Or another way of looking at reliability is the scores that you get from for your performance should be same across evaluators or testers. That's also reliable. So you think about this and you maintain reliability by creating rubrics or assessment criteria, which Ishwar Rao was talking about earlier, where you create the descriptive criteria for, let's say, for example, you want to see a set of rubrics. If you're interested, then I can show you.
Yes, sir. I mean, I wanted to talk about rubrics, so
Okay, so I will share with you rubrics. Just give me a second. So this is what I used for note taking in my classroom. Captured the main, so I have content organization and mechanics, where we are talking about captured main idea, comprehensively used appropriate subheadings. This is for note taking, and they listen to a piece of something on the video, or we play an audio clip, and then they'll do that. Then after that, we are looking at content organization and mechanics. In mechanics, we look at clarity in expression, own words for presenting the content, and demonstrate the ability to reduce the number of words used by using concise points. So these are something that you should talk about before the assessment, not after assessment. Students should know how they are going to be scored, what criteria you will be using. Here I'm using 3 criteria: content, organization, and mechanics. These are my assessment criteria, and these are my rubrics. I have described the performance at various levels, what scores they will get for each category. And if they know this, they'll be able to prepare well for the assessment, and that will make the assessment a fair assessment. We'll go back again to the presentation. Just give me a second. Yeah, then authenticity. Anybody who can define authenticity for me? Can you define authenticity quickly? No? See, authenticity has to do with whether a task or an assessment task reflects real life context in terms of the context and in terms of language use. I'll give you an example. Can you give an example? Then I'll try. Anybody who would like to try and give me an example of authenticity in assessment? Quickly. No? Okay. So if I'm assessing...
So maybe,
Yeah, go on, Manisha. Manisha, go on. Manisha,
So I think,
yeah,
so
go.
I think if we give, yes, so I think if we give them task-based activities to do, maybe that will be okay. Like
Can you give
if
me an
we give them,
example? Can you give me an example from your classroom? Where do you teach?
so I'm a research scholar, I'm not teaching, but I think if we give them task-based activities, like suppose in the lower class, if we are giving them, suppose how to prepare tea. So if we are giving them, like if they have not prepared it, so like how the steps to prepare tea, suppose like that.
So have you asked the students whether they prepare tea at home?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if they do, then it's yes, then it's authentic. There is no problem with that, but they may not be using English there. So there is authenticity of the context, but may not be authenticity of language as such. But if you think there is scope for that, go ahead and do it. There's no problem with that. You can go ahead and do this. There's no problem.
Generally, we can
Sir?
also ask them to speak about their personal experiences visiting places or describing certain narratives that they
Right.
gave us. So that is more like a real life experience for the students.
Absolutely, yes. So Manisha and Himabindu, thank you. Anybody else?
Sir, I use my website, which the purpose is to get them familiarized with the reading as well as the listening skill. That is Authenticate One, which really helps them to improve these two skills.
So what
Can
kind of authentic text do you use?
sorry, sir, again?
What kind of, let's say you are giving them reading, okay, teaching them reading. And if you have to
Yes,
use
sir.
authentic text, what kind of text would you use for your, let's say, engineering students?
Shall I tell now, sir? Shall I share it now, sir? ESL Bits, that's a website, ESL Bits, which has stories, it's foreign literature. We have novels, stories, then novellas is available. So I recommend them.
So are you
as
teaching
they
literature
can-
students?
But still, it's an extensive reading, sir. They can, to improve their knowledge, let them take. No, I'm not dealing with literature students. I'm dealing with engineering students.
So if you are dealing with engineering students and if you have to give them an authentic text, what would be an authentic text for an engineering student generally?
Finally, we arrived at a solution like personality development and self-help book. And also
No, I'm
they
saying that,
recommended.
see, there is a problem there again. So if you have to teach them, let's say, academic reading, okay, and these are engineering students, and if you're teaching them academic reading, and these are engineering students, an authentic context would be to ask them to read on a topic related to their area. For example, let's say they're from computer science, you ask them to read on, let's say, cryptocurrency or cloud computing or something like that. That would be an authentic reading topic. But the source can also be from a science magazine or something like that, an open source science magazine, which will make it an authentic text. You understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But there are also difficulty. These are all the difficulties I face. Only this could happen in my research only when I collaborate with the core department faculty. This could happen because people are coming forward to share what all that you suggested. But thing is, I was not in a position to judge, assess them whether they are conveying the actual content in the passage. So this also has been arrived at a solution later. So collaborative learning along with the
Engineering
technical
teachers.
department. Yes, sir.
I think
Yes, sir.
here also
Yes,
your
I-
students can become your like your collaborators in the sense they are familiar with those kind of texts, so they can help you with the
yes,
text.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. There's everything I have included in my part. I mean, stage of my research, sir.
Okay, thank you. Next one is
Thank you, sir.
practicality, which has to do with organizational help or feasibility aspect. Somebody mentioned feasibility earlier, so it has to do with the feasibility and organizational or resource arrangements. Can somebody talk about it? Somebody who has not spoken today would like to add to the discussion an example of practicality in assessment. No, I'll give you an example from my context. Okay, so we teach here presentation skills to students. Okay, and let's say I have 100 students in the classroom and I teach them presentation skills. So we try to involve as many students as possible during teaching so that they can present. But it's not an entire course. We have only 3 classes and there are 100 students. So all 100 students cannot make presentations and improve their presentation skills in the process. That's not possible. So what happens is we do these and then in the assessment, when we have to do this and they may not have scope, we may not have this scope for assessing all 100, or it's a multi-section course. There are 600 students in 6 sections. I don't think it's possible. We don't have the resources to assess 600 presentations in, let's say, 10 days or 7 days time. It's not possible. It's very difficult. So sometimes practicality becomes a concern. Sometimes, for example, if you teach in a school in, some part of, let's say, an underdeveloped area in school in some place, and there you are teaching students listening, and you use your mobile phones and all, but how do you conduct a listening test for them? And let's say you have 70 students in the class, you may not be able to do that. You may not have time to do that. So that becomes a practical concern. So sometimes we take into account practical concerns, or concerns of practicality, and then what is feasible becomes important. Now, sometimes your institute is not in a position to help you with resources. You may not have teachers, you may not have time, depends. So accordingly, you should decide what is appropriate in your context. Next one is one more is fairness and ethics, which anybody who can tell me what fairness and ethics is? Yeah, that's a good example. Soap covers, toothpaste covers are authentic materials for developing language. Yes. Fairness and ethics, anybody? Anybody who can talk about fairness? Let's say telling students in advance what you are assessing, when you are assessing, what are the assessment criteria, what are the rubrics you are going to use for assessing their performance or scoring their performance. That's fairness. No partiality, yes. And you should not give topics like, stock market thing. People who know, they will be able to write. People who don't know, they'll fail. That's really problematic as a topic, because that becomes unfair. And sometimes you ask them to talk about how, let's say, a foreign travel as a topic. People who come from socially disadvantaged backgrounds may not have traveled abroad, and they may not be able to talk about a foreign travel or visiting a foreign destination. So you need to give equal opportunity to everybody, or asking them to use laptops to do something or video record. Not everybody has mobile phones. Not everybody can afford a laptop. So think about these things carefully, and think about, let's say, giving a topic on cricket. Not everyone in the classroom plays cricket. So think about these things in terms of class, caste, gender, sexuality, access to technology, training in technology, financial background, educational background of parents. Consider all these socio-cultural factors when you are giving assessment. Don't hide, don't trick them into, I'll cut marks for this, I'll cut marks for that. Those are tricking students into doing something really stupid. So you try to be as fair as possible, okay? And declare everything to students very clearly. Where you are cutting marks, they should know beforehand, not after the exam or assessment. So those things should be clear, and you should not assess something that you have not taught. You should not use a task that you have not used in the classroom. That becomes unfair. So think about these things. Washback has to do with how the assessment impacts your teaching and learning. Earlier, Ishwar Rao mentioned, when you get information about where students stand, are you making changes in your teaching and learning process? If you are, then it has a positive washback on your teaching and learning. If it's not happening, then there's a problem. Okay, so that's washback. Yeah. I have given you here a similar kind of thing, writing an email, a paragraph describing charts, graph, diagrams. So these are the things. What kind of emails? Are these emails academic or general emails? Did you teach only the features, or they wrote emails in the classroom? If you taught only features, probably you can ask them what are the features. You cannot ask them to write an email. It's like I teach you writing using a computer and throw you in water and ask you to swim. I didn't teach you swimming. I taught you various aspects of swimming on my computer. If I take you to water, hold your hands, show you how to do this, then you do it, I give you support, then you can assess swimming in a swimming pool. You cannot throw me to a swimming pool after teaching me swimming on a computer. Same thing applies to you. So when you teach students email writing, they should be writing emails in the classroom, and you should correct, give them feedback, then you ask them to write an email in the exam. Otherwise, problem. Then how many words? If you ask them to write very short emails in the classroom, that the same length should be there in the assessment. And same thing for paragraphs, paragraph writing. There you talk about the length, the topic, the task time, the time given, whether it's authentic, who will score the answers, the rubrics, all those things should be clear. Otherwise, you will be violating the basic principles of assessment. So if you want to make your assessment learning friendly, learner friendly, go with these principles. That's my suggestion. Yeah. So which one will you take the first thing from here? This will be our last thing. I'm closing after this. Which one should you take first? Quickly. In the chat box, you can mention which one. Am I audible?
The first for me would be the assessment criteria and rubrics.
Okay.
And then the second is the context, whether it is academic or general or discipline. Then the impact of learning and teaching. That's the order that I like to go.
Okay.
And the time, of course.
Okay. Anybody else? So generally, when you start thinking about it, the first thing you think about is what skills, sub-skills, components you taught. That becomes your objective, right? The purpose of your assessment. So once you set the skills and sub-skills, then you think about what context will be appropriate. Then you think about academic, general, which discipline, where, what genre, what time frame, when I'm taking text, what kind of topics, all those things you decide from the context. And then you think about what kind of, what is feasible or what is appropriate, okay? And then think about what assessment criteria and rubrics you can use for assessing the performance. Once you do that, then you develop the tasks, okay? Once you understand the task, you think about while designing tasks, think about the time, the length, okay? The authenticity of the task, what is feasible, what is not. Think about those things, okay? And once you are done with the task designing, then go for a peer review. Okay, ask your peers or other teachers to look at the same task and give you some feedback. And if you do it together, even better. And then think about how you will give feedback after this. Okay, after you conduct the assessment and you get some, their performance, how will you give feedback on their performance? Have a plan in place. And then think about once you conduct this, analyze the performance. You see that some people have not been, most people in the classroom, they are struggling with punctuation. It becomes your duty to teach them punctuation skills. I mean, sorry, how to use punctuation properly while, writing. So when you are teaching writing skills, make sure you teach punctuation and kind of give a little more emphasis because you saw in the last test, they struggle with punctuation. Or if they have problems with question structures or interrogative structures, make sure you teach that a little more explicitly and emphasize that a little more. And then if you are changing that, you know that there is a positive impact on your teaching and a positive impact on their learning. If due to your assessment, they are able to learn better, acquire skills faster or more effectively, then you know that your assessment is really working. So make sure you connect your assessment to student learning. If they are able to learn better, and if you are able to, design better assessments and your teaching is getting better, probably you are doing a good job. Probably you are able to identify these are their strengths, they are doing well, and these are the areas in which they need further assistance or help or support or further practice. Then you do it. So these are some of the things that you should keep in mind when you are preparing for your assessment. We'll go to, yeah, these are some of the things you did make sure that you learn more about assessment, how to create good tasks, how to develop your assessment literacy, attend more webinars, seminars, conferences, as many as you can, so that you learn how to do these things more appropriately and more effectively. And if your, your principal or your director or other people, they have better assessment literacy, if your students have better assessment literacy, stakeholders like textbook writers, syllabus designers, if they have good assessment literacy, then we'll be able to do a good job. All of us should be on the similar kind of track. Then assessment will be impactful. This is a platform I would like all of you to join. This is on Facebook. So type ELTI India. You will see this picture. I would love all of you to be there. This is a good professional development platform. I manage this. We have 5,400 teachers in this platform. So I would urge all of you to join this platform today. And this we share, let's say, travel grants or scholarships, travel abroad, conferences, materials, and professional development programs, webinars, conferences, all kinds of things on this platform. So join this as soon as you can. You can write to me, just type Santosh and bits. You will find my email ID. You can write to me if you have any questions or queries, or if you're doing research and if you think that I can help you, I would love to do that. I'll share the PPT with you so that you can download the PPT and use it if you think, that's what you need. Then probably share the link with you and you use the PPT. For accessing the information I presented to you, here is the link to the PPT. You can download it and keep a copy. Thank you so much. That's it from my side.
Thank you so much, sir, for such an insightful and transformative session. So I would like to ask the participants whether they have any question or not. If they have, they can write in the chat box or can unmute themselves and ask sir directly. He would answer your questions.
I think because we talked about questions and we had conversations, they may not really have questions.
Yeah, sure. Okay.
Sir,
Thank you so much, sir, for coming and giving us your time and such an expert guidance. We would remember it forever. Thanking you again, and all the participants. I would like to announce that there is another session from 1:30 p.m. and I would like to invite all the participants to join the second session of the day. Thank you, and thanking Santosh sir again. I am ending the session.